Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to PyCon AU 2025. Excited to see you all here. Now, it is my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker of the day in this room, a friend, Derek Bingham, who is going to be speaking to us on the continued developer evolution. A big round of applause, please.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Too kind. So I'm going to start this talk with an image. I'll explain the image at the end of the talk. You can have a look at it, you can draw some insights, and you may have an idea of where I'm going with this, but you may be surprised. And he clicks. So my journey started, and this is a very personal journey, over the last 12 months, by sitting down with my son, who's 12, and building a game using a coding assistant. Because I'd heard a lot about coding assistants and the term vibe coding, and I really wanted to get my son into computer science and learning Python. And so we built this game, a cross between Pac-Man and Snake. He loved it, and now he can't get enough of writing code. So I, being the software engineer of 20-odd years, and I thought, well, what sort of code is this actually creating? And so I used a prompt, and I wanted to introspect the code and see, well, how well is it structured? And so, using Mermaid and the coding assistant, I got the following class diagram. And at this point, I went, wow, that is quite impressive. I remember creating class diagrams. Anybody here actually created a class diagram from scratch using a UML modeler? It took a bloody long time. Rational rows, I believe, is one of the classics. Took a long time, 2 minutes. It's pretty good. And then, having seen all this, I went to, where all developers go, into Reddit developer humor. And I saw something which was quite different than what I'd experienced. Was a number of things about vibe coding, which weren't exactly as interesting as they were interesting and funny, but not what I'd experienced. And then, digging a little bit deeper, I came across some articles around how some people have not had a very nice day vibe coding. I especially like this one. Paul's actually from Perth, where I'm from. But boy, was it beautiful. And I could absolutely understand that. And so I then dug a little bit deeper into this vibe coding thing. And I came across this gem. I don't know if you've seen this. Vibe coding. Very inefficient, but entertaining. Has anybody seen this? Linus Torvalds. Gold. Absolute gold. So Linus is someone I respect deeply. And so, again, I got more of an idea of how software practitioners like myself were viewing this thing called vibe coding. And then I talked to a lot of developers in my career as a developer advocate, and I'm hearing a lot of this from junior developers, early career developers, people coming out of university. They're going, Derek, what does my career look like? Is there even a job for junior developers anymore? And this concerned me even more. So we're at a crossroads. Are we going to think about taking the blue pill and continuing down the vibe coding path, or are we going to ignore it completely and continue in our own way of creating code? And so this is the journey that I've just been on. And this is the talk that I built to describe it. So my name's Derek. I'm a developer advocate at AWS. I've been writing code for more than 2 decades, and I've built a lot of applications. I've had a lot of fun in this career. And I want to explain to you how I see it evolving. Because it is evolving. There's nowhere to hide. Things are changing. You can build a Snake game in 2 minutes, Things are changing. So I started, like most of us of my generation, reading this book about software craftsmanship. When I graduated and started building applications, it was all about craftsmanship. Coding is a craft, and I firmly believe that still. It is about building something that works, that when you put it into the hands of your paying customers, it works. And if you want to change it, you can change it pretty easily based on the features that they want. It is a craft. I still believe that. But when I started, the craft was more around creating code in VI. So I started off as a Java programmer, Java 1.1, believe it or not. And this is how I coded in VI. Painful. When I look at that now, I recorded this yesterday or the day before, and I couldn't believe how much it hurt just to do a static main entry point to a Java program. It took actually, I timed it as well, 2 minutes. And then once we've coded it, I had to compile it if we were using compiler language, and then we had to run it. And imagine building a software system like that. Takes time. Yes, there's a craft involved, but the craft is sometimes caught in the detail of the code. And after getting out of VI, I still use VI actually, we evolved into IDEs, and it became a lot easier because we didn't have to switch contexts. We were in the editor, we could compile it, we could run it inside the IDE. Saved us a bit of time. We could concentrate a bit more on our craft. And then through my career, it did not start in the 70s, just to point that out. But I have wrote COBOL. And throughout my career, I have done a lot of these languages. I've written and working software with quite a lot, which scares me when I put this slide together. And now we're in the next evolution. And this is what I'm saying is I haven't actually written anything in code for 12 months. I've been writing everything in prompts, which is quite an evolution for me and quite confronting. And so this was the prompt I used with my son to create the Pac-Man game. So if you don't know, Nibbles is the name of Snake. Yeah. And so this is actually the one and only prompt we wrote to get the basics of the game. We had to fix up some of the gameplay with a number of prompts, different prompts, but this is the nature of what we did. And so, as I said, it's time to investigate this thing. It's time to see what it would take to create a crafted piece of software using these agents. And so that's what I started to investigate. And so over a number of months, I've started to use different AI agents and coding assistants, and I've came up with a way that works for me. And what actually works for me might be different from you. So the best way to demonstrate that is through a little Flask demo I put together. So it's a very simple CRUD Flask application that you log in, you create an element, but the one thing I want to focus on is there is a missing feature. So I put this, like we would in the real world, we put this in front of our customer, and the customer after a day goes, it's rubbish, I want this feature that you've never thought about. And in this case, I'm going to talk about the delete feature. Because I have an app, I can create stuff, but I can't delete stuff. So that's the feature that's missing. And so the first powerful thing that I've found with these AI coding assistants is introspection. So if I had been given this application and told, Derek, this is the application, go fix it. I'm like, what's Flask? I'd be Googling Flask, I'd be going, trying to work out what Flask is. But within the assistant, you stay inside the IDE, so no context switching. It speeds things up. I'm faster. Also, if you look inside the well-documented Flask app that's created with 0 documents, 0 docs, you can actually document it as well, and the assistants are pretty good at doing this as well. So here, I'm actually doing an introspect at a function level, and so it'll tell you what the function does, and at every line. And that's handy as well. A, if you've never used Flask before. B, if you're early careers developer who doesn't know Python. This will tell you exactly what this function is doing. Super handy. And then finally, adding docs, because docs are good. Really good at doing that. So I found this super helpful. And then the next bit that I found helpful is adding features. And so this is where the agentic functionality of these coding assistants comes in, where you can define the details of a feature that you want to add to an application. And so this, I'm in my prompt land again, add a new method to remove an item, update HTML and code, and even the SQL query in the persistence layer. And so the agentic flow will, some agents, if you let them, will do it for you all in one step. I like verifying. Call me old-fashioned, but I like verifying what they're trying to do, what they're planning to do. And so I let this agent go. It tells me that it's reviewing number of files. This is Amazon Q Developer inside Visual Studio Code as a plugin. And so as it goes through, works out what it wants to do, tells me what files it wants to change. I then have control over what I am happy with it doing. So a lot of the feedback that we're seeing, and I showed earlier, where the agents are getting into an infinite loop and really doing not very much, not very quickly, we can control. I think control is important. And so as the file changes are put through by the agent, I can approve and deny, as I would any code review. And then, of course, like any good developer, I test my change, which I didn't write any code for. But I did build it. I think that's key. I'm still crafting this application. I test it, and the delete functionality is there. So that's how I'm starting to evolve my working. So let's try and address the gap between what we're being sold. I'm hearing lots of quotes that they will take over the world, developers are dead, the end is nigh, and what the reality actually is. And I think that needs to be clearly defined. And so I'm hearing three key things. The first one is AI will replace developers. Now, if the example I showed you previously, you'll notice that I knew exactly how to prompt that tool. If you put that tool in the hands of someone who did not have a level of experience that I had, you would get a very different result. It would not be as efficient. You would not get to production as quickly. AI will not replace developers. It is a tool for developers. This is nonsense, and if I could swear, I would. I feel very strongly about this. But I also hear the flip on this. AI code generated is inferior. Now again, that is nuanced, incredibly nuanced. The code that it generates can be inferior if it's not supplied the right context and the right knowledge about the application that it's updating or building. So it can, in fact, generate inferior code, but the person who is the developer or the engineer who is telling it what to do is the one who dictates how good that code is. And then finally, the saddest part. Learning to code is pointless. This makes me incredibly sad. Learning to code is absolutely not pointless. The only reason that this application works that I showed you in the demo is I looked at all the changes that the AI told me that it was going to make, and I verified them. I was able to verify them because I know how to code. Yes, I could use the AI to introspect, excuse me. I could use the AI to introspect code and understand the code, and that would give me a level of knowledge. But I still need to know how to code. I need to know how to compose an application. I need to know about how, if this application was talking to an API that was remote, best ways to make that resilient, best ways to do back-off retry. I need to know this information. Yes, the AI can teach me this information if I don't know it, but I need to know at some stage. And what I'm saying is controversial. I hope it's not. I think this will be the way we go forward, is more AI actually equals more developers. Because of a thing that happened many years ago. So this is called the Jevons paradox. Has anybody heard of the Jevons paradox? Yes, my friend. Too magnificent. So the Jevons paradox comes from the Industrial Revolution, where something happened. Well, lots of things happened, but one key thing happened. This is a steam engine. And steam engines are very efficient at making power from coal. And when they were first created, the industry as a whole was like, well, as these steam engines are more efficient in powering things, I'm from Ireland, so my W's are quite hard to say, powering things, then we need less coal. What happened was quite the opposite. The industry demanded more steam, more power. They needed more steam engines. And so what happened? Demand for coal went up. And so the same thing will happen for developers and engineers. What these coding assistants and Gen AI are creating is efficiencies. So we can get things to market quicker. Ergo, the demand for our skills will go up. But it's on us to evolve. And how can we evolve? Well, first of all, there are problems that have not been solved. There are new terms and skills that you must learn. I'll highlight a few. There are many. The first one is a term that I've coined called token theft. So if you give an AI assistant ultimate perfect context, perfect knowledge about the application you're building, and a perfect prompt to do what you want it to do, it can still hallucinate. It can still give you nonsense. It can still be wrong. But what's it done by doing that? It has stolen your tokens. Because all these AI assistants need and work on and cost models are on per token. So it's stolen your token. How do we fix that? That is something that has not been solved. Checkpointing. These AI assistants write code really fast, really, really fast. You need to slow down. You need to checkpoint. You need to say, prompt, what's it created? Verify, okay, let's go. Checkpoint here. So many people I've talked to don't know how to use Git, but they're vibe coding their hearts out. Good luck to them. Checkpointing, very key. And then things like pair programming. These are fundamental software development practices. They can be used in this context and be used very, very well. Pair programming, somebody writes the code, somebody writes the tests. In AI land, get a model to generate the code if you need it, get a different model to generate the tests. Verify. And there are many others that will come up as we go down this evolution. One of them that has just been released is spec-driven. So spec-driven development is something that has come up in the last couple of months, and it's all about giving structure to this chaos, the chaos that I'll call vibe coding. And what it does is, at its heart, is that implementation bit. So prompting, getting the output that you want from the assistant, and then verifying. But up front, you're giving it better context, better understanding of what you're trying to build. You're helping it. And that's where the specifications come in. More information about the application that you're building. That then feeds into what the AI assistant is generating. And then, of course, we test everything. So we then go through that test cycle and before finally deploying. Structure around the vibe coding chaos. And that's the bit that's called spec-driven. Now, if anybody's like me and has written software for a long time, this is waterfall development 101. Hooray. And then into maintenance. So waterfall is a very old way of building software, and it's now come back again. Now, this will evolve as well. We'll get the V model. We'll get iterative techniques as well, but this is where we're currently starting with these AI assistants. And the tool that I'm using to do that is Kiro, that we've released about 6 months ago. But there's other tools, right? I'm not here to talk to you about what tools are good for you. I want you to find out, because every engineer and developer in this room needs to evolve, and it's your personal evolution. I've went through mine. It's time for you to go through yours. So assistants. I've used Kiro and I've used QDev in these demos. There's also Klein, excellent assistant, and Cursor, and many, many more. I can't talk about the rest. I've just used those. There's a link there to Kiro. But also, to give these agents are actually built on agent frameworks. It's really interesting, and you should understand what these agentic frameworks are and build one yourself. Gives you a great insight into what these coding assistants are doing and even how you can change them. So two that I've used are both Python, Strands, and Pedantic AI. Worth looking at, and there's a link there to Strands. And then finally, how to extend these agents, how to make them work for your use case. And currently, there's 2 ways you can do that. There's actually 3, but 2 that I've used: MCP and A2A. And if you're curious about how to use Strands and MCP together, I'm giving a workshop on Monday, and we're going to build something with those 2 frameworks. So, what is my key takeaways from today's talk? If you've listened to nothing else than my Irish accent, is humans are important, craftsmen are still valid, and an AI agent cannot craft. We craft. We are important. And this is a quote from a very large agentic AI CEO. With AI, he hears that with AI, we can replace all of our junior people in our company. I was like, that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. And I actually agree with this quote. And I was surprised that this came from Matt Garman, who is the CEO of AWS. That is a fact. So back to our car. My first ever job, I worked for a very large airline, and there were people driving in sports cars, really fancy sports cars, and the number plate was COBOL 1. I was like, who are these people? I just started. Who are these people? And they're like, Derek, these are the COBOL programmers. They are fixing up all the legacy COBOL code that the company has created. They're also, and I'm saying, well, poor them, they don't know how to use Java. And I was told, in no uncertain terms, yes, they do. They just make more money fixing COBOL, hence the cars. So, the number plate is important. There will always be work for developers and engineers. In the future, maybe fixing up all the vibe coding mistakes that people thought that was a good idea at the time. Maybe when the first feature drops from their customers and they have no idea what that vibing has created. Now go build. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Derek.
Thank you.
Here is your mug. Thank you so much for your time. We have a few minutes for questions, if people would like to ask them. I'm going to grab the roaming mic and come and chase you all. We've got one up the front here and another one up the front there. Go for that one first.
Thanks for the talk, Derek. Great talk.
Pleasure.
I'm involved with behavior-driven design testing, building all those tests for 3D CAD programs. And to me, the challenge, if all this vibe coding goes ahead and goes really well, we still need what we can do as humans to put together those corner cases and things. How can AI come up with really good tests, the smallest set of really good tests, especially to catch those corner cases?
Yeah, 100%. So I have been thinking about BDD intensely over my 12-month journey, because that is the answer. right? We have not, I don't know the answer to your question, first of all, but there is absolute avenue for BDD to have a strong influence in where we go with this. I absolutely agree. Yes, it is just like the waterfall techniques, BDD and pair programming, BDD and those techniques that we've learned over years that work, that make sure our software works, we need to harness in the AI domain as well. Yep.
Hi, Derek. Thanks for your talk.
Pleasure.
I noticed that in your vibe coding example, you didn't commit your code before letting the AI edit it. I'm always scared of the AI deleting stuff, so I always commit before. But then you addressed it later in the slides, right? Like Git's really important.
Yes.
I think I wanted to ask, do you think we might need something even better than Git, something that's tailored so that the AI can actually read it without spending a ton of tokens reading your entire Git history, something that's optimized,
Yes.
so they can do that better, and also so you can see the commits that are from the AI and the commits that have been, the bits of the code that have been read by humans and edited by humans. And
Yes, 100%. So I had a good discussion in Seattle about this very thing a couple of weeks ago. That's why I termed it checkpointing and not committing Git, using Git specifically. I think the evolution of how we do that is not a simple Git commit. It is more complex than that, and more subtle and more nuanced. And so that will evolve. That slide was all about we haven't got a fix for them, or we don't know how to do it yet, and checkpointing is one of them.
thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, Derek. Excellent talk. We started at a point where we had software craftsmanship. Now we have vibe coding that is creating code at the speed of tokens.
Yes, nice.
How does it change us as developers, as engineers, as creators of things that are more disposable, more throwable away, and further away from a craft?
I disagree. So that was the whole intent of this talk, was to highlight that we're not disposable. We are still craftspeople. We still understand what we're trying to do. We understand how we're trying to get where we're getting, right? We have insights. We have knowledge. We can build things. An AI assistant just does what we tell it. It's a next word prediction algorithm, right? That is not a creation algorithm. You know, you look at the AI slop that's out there. Code is no different. An artist and a creator can use the tools that are there to be more efficient, but ultimately, you still need us in the loop.
I think we'll leave it there. We've got about a minute, but I don't think it's going to be enough time for another question. So thank you so much, Derek, for your time. Are you going to be around for the rest of the conference?
Yes, so I'll be at the AWS stand all day and tomorrow and the workshop on Monday. So come have a chat, and love to talk to tough about software development techniques, practices. Love it. Love those conversations.
Thanks very much, Derek.
Thank
One
you.
more big round of applause.